I just wanted to start with basically making a point that the backbone of the Sri Lankan tea industry is the tea pickers. And currently, there is a gender stereotype in that, basically because women are the majority who form the tea pickers. However, the tea picking job in itself is kind of a flat job, in the sense there's not much in the way of career progression or leadership development opportunities. So therefore, a woman choosing to pick tea basically is going to be at the same level of income throughout her career, unless or until the company that employs the tea pickers offers them such career development opportunities and leadership programs. So my first question actually is to Senaka. As a leading tea producer company, how does Talawakelle Tea Estates perceive this area of career progression and leadership development for women tea pickers? And if you could share some of the initiatives that the company has undertaken. Yes,
please. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much, Ahila, for inviting me to this panel. It's a very interesting question that you asked me. To start with, I think there is no difference between the wage or the salary what we pay to a male or a female, so they are at equal level, right? But when it comes to females, as you said, traditionally they have been harvesters. When they join the work at maybe 18 years or older than that, they start as harvesters, and traditionally till they retire they have been harvesters. But now we have looked at this, and as the plantation company represents Talawakelle Tea Estates, we have career development programs for the young tea harvesters who join. In fact, we train them through the TRI, then through the through NITA. We have this NVQ certificate where they are trained, and subsequently they are absorbed into the supervisory grade. So there is always, if they do well, there are different areas that they can move up in the ladder. For example, they can become team leaders. Now, in fact, recently we had a group of 80 of them being trained. They came to Colombo, they were trained at the CIPM, and when they got back, we got a feedback from them, and so they have been elevated to the next level. Not only at team leader level, but we also have a supervisory level where they can gradually progress into becoming field officers. So that is one side. But more than also look at the harvesters after a certain period, they can always join the factory. Then we have the child development centers where we train them, we train them, and most of them are diploma holders. So there are different areas that they can progress in their career. So it's not only that they join as harvesters, but there is they can progress into the next level as well. And also we have another issue. You just look at the people who are joining. Traditionally it had been women who have not gone to school. Most of them are at a very low education level. But nowadays we find, of course, very few, but they have gone up to O-level or advanced level. So we have identified them as leaders and people who could be trained to train the rest of the people. So they have a very big role to play, and where our company is concerned, we are definitely having a career progressive system.
Thank you, Senaka, for sharing the initiatives that your company is undertaking. I would when we look across the tea supply chain, it's not just the tea producing companies, but there are the tea factories and the tea exporters and brokers, etc. As such, overall, when you look at women in leadership roles, there's less visibility of women, for example, as CEOs. We don't see, I don't think there's a single women CEO in the RPCs. And across other things. So actually, this question, I thought I would address it to Rochelle to say, like, what is your opinion? Like, why are there less visibility for women in the leadership boards of the tea supply chain? And why are less women making it to that management level? What do you think are some of the reasons for that?
Thanks, Ahila. Well, when you really look at it, right from the inception, if you look at the tea industry, it has been pretty male-dominated. Of course, that gender stereotyping is something we are trying to gradually break, but it's a bit tough because sometimes women themselves also don't, apply for these positions, even if you want to, take them in. But of course, being that as it may, if you look at the broking arm of our sector, we have the first lady tea auctioneer is also from that. So that kind of breaks that gender stereotype as well. And at the same time, something we have observed is, the career of a woman tends to kind of stop at middle management. It's as if there is some sort of limitation that either she has put on herself or society has put it on her, especially, once they have a child, with the personal commitments coming in. It's tough. We all know how tough it is when you have kids, we have so much of other commitments. But that is something we also want to break, which is where the 1JKH initiative that we have, we are looking at addressing issues where we want to ensure we give, empowerment to our women, where they can move higher up in the ladder, where they understand that, being a woman does not, limit you. Rather that you can do whatever you want to. It has nothing to do with gender. So in that way, we have certain initiatives like, welfare, with employee-supported, creche facilities, where we have multiple service providers, and it's open to all men and women in the group, of course, where they have little kids, where they have that at subsidized rates. And then, they can also, it's also with CCTV viewing, we have to look at the safety of it, because any one of us would be scared if we are putting our child, in, and we need them to have that assurance that their child is safe while they're working as well. So that is one thing. And then we also believe that, it's not only a mother that plays an important role in a child's life. The father plays an equally important role. So we have, increased initially the 84 days of maternity leave to 100 days. And right up to August 22, we had been giving 5 days of paternity leave. But in August, we brought in this parental policy where we have now got an equal 100 days for the father as well. Because there is nothing to say that, it's the mother's job and, the mother needs to stay at home to work. So even the father has that. So that, especially when both the mother and the father are in the group, it helps it even more. Because they don't have to take it right at the inception. It is, within the first 200 days. So they can, take it in turns like that. So then, the mother can come back to work with the knowledge, another parent is looking after. There is nothing to worry in that sense. That way we kind of want our mothers to come back to work, not to, limit themselves. Now that I have a kid, I can't do this. So that is one thing we have done. And then also we are looking at empowering our women at all levels. And, from women entrepreneurship to, women-led businesses, women-owned businesses, the little businesses that they do, we want to, even in our supply chains and all that, we want to empower them, to give them that little push. Because sometimes, you need to break that ice for them to get it, I can do it kind of thing. That's one thing. And then also our John Keells Foundation has Project WAVE that has to deal with really working against violence through education. So through our supply chains and with it's in our communities, we want to break that, that gender-based violence, ensure child protection. So those sort of initiatives are what we are currently doing. We just need to take that first step, especially in an industry like this, that I feel that if there is 1 or 2 people who break that barrier, the rest would automatically follow. So that's really how we are going about it.
That's a really good point that you made, and I'm really glad that you shared about the 100 days of paternity leave and maternity leave. That's a really progressive step. Going back to tea picking, because at the end of the day, the majority of the workforce in the tea supply chain is concentrated in the tea picking area. So currently under the wages board, tea picking is classified as a general labor category. This question I would like to ask to Yogeshwary, and would you agree with this classification of tea picking as a general labor, and what aspects of it do you think would make it semi-skilled or skilled labor?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the opportunity, Ahila. Yes, I think tea picking in the tea industry, women are the major labor force. So they have enough experience and skills because they are nearly worked nearly 10 or 15 or more than 20 years. They are working in the same field. So I think they have enough skills and experience. But the thing is, the upward mobility of the women is prevailing the gap. So majority of the workers are female. We can see in the tea estate. So I think it is better to improve or give them an opportunity to work as a supervisory level position. Or nowadays, many estates they are appointing as a kangani. That's a low layer of the position. So I think with experience and skills of the women, by considering the experience and skills of the women worker, it is we can think about the higher position than the Kangani post. I think here many directors and the higher position gentlemen are here. It will take nearly 1 or 2 years experience. The tea picking is if a worker get proper training, I think nearly it will take nearly 1 or 2 years only. After that, they will expert on the specific field. So by considering those issues and the things, I think they are capable to do their job role as a supervisory level. So if we go to the definition of the skilled labor, we can say the definition of the skilled labor refers to workers who have specialized training or skills. These workers are capable to exercising judgment and have knowledge of the specific trade or industry they work. The demand of skilled labor occupation continues to grow as the need for specialized skills becomes more and more essential. So this definition I got from the esub.com. So this is more relevant to the our plantation women workers. So I think we can think about that thing in order to move further.
Thank you, Yogeshwary, especially of explaining some of the career progression steps that women tea pickers could experience in their career. We had a recent discussion with the Wages Board and Department of Labour officials, and one of the things that they mentioned was under each trade, the classification of what work is classified as unskilled, semi-skilled and skilled is to be jointly determined by the trade industry stakeholders. That's the employers, the trade unions and the Department of Labour. And other key stakeholders. As such, I would like to direct this question to Leelanath about what is the Ministry of Plantation Industry's stance in recognizing tea picking as a skilled or semi-skilled labor?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Ahila, for having me representing the Ministry of Plantation. First of all, if I may elaborate on the mandate of the Ministry of Plantation Industries, it's basically about the crop, tea, rubber, coconut, or those plantation crops. That doesn't mean that it we don't care about the labor, we don't care about the child, we don't care about the children who are in the state. We do, but our main focus is on the crop and the sustainability of the sector. So as a government institution, to answer these questions and to participate this conference, I met my ministry secretary and the additional secretaries who's handling the policy and operations staff in the ministry, and we had a series of discussion in order to get ready to represent the ministry's view. So following that discussions, what I understood was like, as a ministry or as a government institution, the Minister of Plantation Industries is totally agree with the idea of making tea plucking job as a skilled labor. We agree on that. No debate on that. But however, we also believe that the tea picking is the key or the most important role we understand, we see as the image of the tea industry. So whenever you go out and you think about Ceylon tea, what the image you get into your mind? A nice lady, probably a Tamil speaking community lady wearing a sari, having a red dot on her forehead, plucking a tea. That's the image you have. So that is why I believe, as a representative from the ministry, the image of the Ceylon tea is none other than the tea picking ladies. So we also believe that in order to maintain the quality of the produce, we have to look after the people who are involved, especially the women who are involved in the tea picking job. And also, we believe that in order to maintain the sustainable tea sector, or to expect a sustainable tea sector in the future, we have to think about giving the people who are involved in the jobs their due respect or their due recognition. So in that whole, I believe that we are in agreement with the categorization of tea picking as a skilled labor category. Same time, we have to, as Yogeshwary correctly mentioned, we have to think about the definition of skilled labor and where and how we need that. So as she mentioned, we can go further and improve the working capacity of the women employees in our tea sector and advance them to better positions, not only in the tea picking job, and they can go further to supervisor levels even. And also, we have to think about the pros and cons in the categorization, because as Mr. Senaka mentioned, we can go for skilled labor categorization and giving them their necessary certification and the training and everything. At the same time, we have to think about the sector and the business model they are using. We have to think about the extra potential cost of production we may incur with this sort of categorization. So, however, still, at the end, I would like to, mention and, emphasize the need of having a sort of discussion with all the stakeholders, especially the Department of Labor or the Minister of Labor, who are entitled or the mandatory to work on the salaries and wages of the labor. So that's our position. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Actually, back to Senaka, because in terms of skilling and classifying tea picking as a skilled labor, training is one of the key things, and your company has already started in the NVQ process. I would just like to ask if you wear your hat as the chairman of the Planters Association for a moment, how can this be kind of broadly expanded to the entire tea industry? What would some of the steps be?
Yes, on that topic, if you take the Planters Association, we have 22 plantation companies in that association, right? So, and they are having different, how shall I say, the companies are in different elevations and different districts. So each company has different challenges, and also where general things are concerned, I think we all do the same thing. But when it comes to training people, I think I want to lead by example, right? So that's why we launched this and we embarked on this program. And then we can, once this is successful, we can emulate it in other places as well. If you take as a sector, I am part of Haley's Plantations. We have Kalniveli, Talawakelle, and Horana. And all three companies are on this. And we have identified this as a necessity. And we are going on training people. We are identifying harvesters who have leadership qualities, and we want to improve their status and also bring them up. We already have supervisors, as Yogeshwary just said, they can go into supervisory. We already have female supervisors. Now, even if you take the HR officers earlier who were called welfare officers, we call them HR officers, they're mostly females. Right, so there is a career path for them to improve. And as you said, yes, once we get this going, because NVQ standard, they are establishing a new standard in 2023 for the tea pluckers. So once that is done, once it is introduced, all plantation companies, I'm sure, will follow suit.
That's really heartening to hear. There was one point that Leelanath mentioned that about the cost of production, because once tea picking is defined as a skilled labor, there is an associated differentiator in terms of wages. I would like to ask Yogeshwary, actually, as a gender professional and as a women trade union leader, do you agree or disagree whether there is a gender wage gap currently between men and women workers? And if yes, what is the gender wage gap? And what are your thoughts on addressing this gap?
Yes, gender wage gap. In the plantation sector, after 1984, men and women are getting same salary. Before that, I think the wage difference in between men and women is gap was there. But after that, 1984, they are getting same salary. But practically, currently, what is happening is, if we compare the working hours of the men and women, male workers, once they finish their task within 2 or 3 hours, they can get off. They will complete their task the day of the task. But what happening for the women workers is, they should be at the workplace until 4:30. Sometimes it will be 8 hours or sometimes it will be more than 9 hours or 8 hours, whatever according to the distance of the field, it will depend on the time is depend on the distance of the field. So I think it should be changed. Like how men they are in order to complete their task within 4 hours or 3 hours, then why we can introduce that norms or practice to all to the women also. So if they do like that, women also can do additional. They can also earn apart from the tea picking job. So our previous panelist also mentioned that definitely the current scenario of the economic and political situation, they need additional income. It can be a working class or lower middle class or upper middle class, whatever the class of the people, because the cost of living is day to day increasing. It is very difficult to manage with the cost of living of the country. So women also able to finish their task by 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. After that, they can do another job and they can earn more. I think it will be a positive thing for the management, because it doesn't get any disaster or the negative thing for the companies or the management. I don't know, the experts are here, they can share their opinion, but I think if they finish their task, they can leave from the workplace, no? So is it, if it is possible, I think some of the companies or the state management, they are blaming if we do like that, the company, the industry will be collapsed. So some of them are criticizing like that. But I think in order to gain more income for women, so if it is possible to do it as a norm, it will be a good practice, I think.
Thank you, Yogeshwary. One point I wanted to mention is, while I understand that the wages are the same actually for men and women workers, but the very point that you made about the number of working hours differs, that does indicate a gender wage gap. As such, I would like to turn back to Leelanath and ask about what are some of the recommendations from the ministry's perspective that you have to address this.
Yeah, yes, thank you again. To answer before I answer that question, I would also like to emphasize there is no literal how to call gender gap in the salaries in the tea sector, but there is a difference in the jobs assigned to the biological sex of the worker. Like certain heavy jobs are not practiced by the female laborers. Mainly like, I don't know what is the word in English, mulgalavana or some heavy jobs, uprooting. Those heavy jobs are not done by females by practice. So what my idea is like to, actually this is not limited only to state sector, as my understand. When I look out the society, this is not limited to tea state. So we have to go about this as a whole society. Then we have to focus on more on the state workers. So as for your question, so our ministry's thought on this is to go in a severe legal regulations to do this, because sometimes when we currently we also having a sort of legal procedures going on about the salary wage, daily wages and all. So therefore, we have to have a strong legal regulations beforehand to come to a conclusion of this eliminating of this gender gap in the wage. Then again, we have to think about redesigning certain job roles to assign certain jobs to even to women. So, for example, like we are using certain methods to transport the tea leaves to factories by transportation. So certain small activities can be redesigned. Maybe it costs a lot at the end of the day, but still we have to think about how we can redesign these jobs so that women also can participate and they can earn, they can reduce their hours of work. And also, other than that, I also suggest about having certain redesigning processes in the government system of business registration maybe. So now even certain states we have complaints regarding their business registration. Sometimes it's a bit difficult, not everywhere, but in some cases we have find they can't go to certain office, they have difficulties in get their businesses registration, like maybe home businesses and all. So we can think about that also. I should emphasize that changes will definitely happen, but it will not happen suddenly, but definitely it will happen.
Thank you very much. The next question I'd actually like to ask Rochelle. I know John Keells does not own any tea estates, but you are involved in other aspects of the tea supply chain. Do you see any other areas of work where there is potentially a gender wage gap? If not, what do you think the reasons for that are? Because you have factories and other places, right?
Yes. So since we have factories, our workers are only limited to those that are working in our factories. So there is actually no wage gap in that sense. Whether it is male or female, it's the same wage. And also they are given the same facilities, I believe other companies also, from the lodging to the meals at concessionary rates and so on. But what we have also looked at is making our workers feel that they are a very important part and a pivotal role that they play in this industry. In the trade itself, they may be just workers, but they play a key role there. And that is something we want them to understand, that it's just because you're a worker, it does not mean anything. You're important to us, and your suggestions to how you do your job, because we feel if they are happy and if they come motivated, automatically your productivity will go up anyway. And we do little things like, having little celebrations, from Children's Day celebrations, we invite even the workers and staff, everyone. We don't have any division in that sense, where, they bring their kids in, then we have a little function, little games, give a little gift. And the happiness you see on those faces are lovely to see, really. And those sort of little things, we want them to understand that, we are all one family. It's not, immaterial of what job role we play. We all have different job roles, from management to executive to the workers. But, we are, at the end of the day, we are one team, we are one family. That is one thing we are very strongly, we have, inculcated in them, something we regularly tell them. And even at a group level, if you look at it, we are focusing on equity. There is no difference in opportunities or access to training and development. So even if it's a worker who wants it, or management, anyone, it is the same thing. So there is nothing, gender-wise or level-wise that there is any change. And even when it comes to women per se, we are looking at, women-centric training, where we see talent. Sometimes you see the talent, but they don't come forward. So we find mentors for them, sponsoring them in things, where we give them that little push. That is how we really look at.
Thank you. My next point basically is on dignity of work, which is a basic right of every worker, every employee in this planet. So I would like to ask Yogeshwary, basically, what are the aspects of tea picking that affords that dignity to the worker, and what are some of the areas that you feel still needs to be addressed?
Yeah. Currently, in the tea plantation sector, I think some things we need to improve at the workplace. For an example, we can say now women are using the can and plastic basket in order to pick the tea, and they are using the string is put on their head. I think instead of that, we can introduce the back bag. We can take an example for the from the international level, the Kenya, Vietnam, China, for the tea producing countries which are using those things. So if they using the back bag, we can create a good health things, because if they used on head, it will create some health issues. No, the back pain and the other things will they will face many issues. So instead of that, why can't we use the back bag? That is one thing. And also the gloves. They can use the cotton gloves and boost. At the workplace, they are facing many issues, the snake, leeches, and bees, and many issues they are facing. They are beating of the workers. So in order to minimize those risks and the dangerous things, we can use those, and hat. even rain or hot, they are not using the hat in order to safeguard their body and the part of the body. So if under the dignity, if you look at the definition of the dignity, I would like to share some points on that. Dignity at work involves actively creating a workplace environment which encourages respect and acceptance. Dignity and respect at work can equal to having a good level of diversity and inclusion, equality and justice, equal opportunity, health and safety, merit and reward, fair practices and opportunities, and anti-discrimination. And these are, if we talk about the dignity of the work, I think definitely we need to consider those things under the dignity of the work. So I think the safety kids, safety kids also introduced to respect. And if they use those things, the society also give a recognition to the workers. Otherwise, just the job dignity is not there. Especially currently the young generation, it can be girls or boys, they are unlike to work in the industry due to the lack of the dignity and the low wages. So if we are consider this the dignity of the work, we can safeguard the industry. So that is more important to sustain the industry, right? In order to sustain the industry, we need to consider the dignity of the workers.
Thank you for the points that you raised. The next question is directed at Senaka, because as the Haley's group, you have done a lot of initiatives on focusing on the dignity of work. So I would like to invite you to share some of the initiatives, and also what are still some of the challenges that you feel needs to be addressed, and with a broad stakeholder group, please share.
Yeah, Ahila, now first let me answer a few questions or the comments raised by Ms. Yogeshwary and Mr. Leelanath on working hours. As Mr. Leelanath quite rightly said, you know, it's two different types of work that they perform. If you take a male, right, for example, pruning. That's a very difficult thing to do. Applying fertilizer, they have to carry the bags and go into the field, because that's probably the only way that we have. So I think they perform their task, and thereafter only they leave, because it's a very tough job for males. But talking about the females, yes, not that their work is not difficult, but it's the number of hours, and the requirement is the norm, or the daily task is the norm that they have to harvest. But they must be very careful when they're harvesting to make sure that they pluck good leaf, because that's finally it will affect the end product. So there is a difference in the tasks they perform. And also talk about females, if they work late, I'm sure they can harvest more than their norm, and there is a possibility for them to earn a higher wage as overkilos and incentives, right? So then coming back to the same topic, you were saying they have to work 8 hours. Yes, we have identified that as an issue. That is why we have introduced this revenue share model, where we give certain blocks to families and say, okay, the mothers, sometimes they may have to take the small child to the hospital for clinic or something like that. They can go, come back at flexi hours. They can come and pluck at 10 o'clock. Whatever they pluck, we pay them on the poundage. And of course, we pay a high rate. We have different models where they can earn, we can prove that. People have earned up to 50 to 80,000 rupees a month on this revenue share model. So I think that is something that we should pursue in the future, and we are aggressively promoting it, because that is a way that they can earn more. We want our people to be there. Then about these plucking baskets also, I must tell you, that if you look at the past, you will see all them carrying heavy cane baskets on their head, forehead, quite rightly as what she said. But now if you look at this plastic plucking basket, what we have, it's called the ergonomic plucking basket introduced by the tea research institute. It's the haversack model. And it also protects their head by having a cap on top. So that lady wears a cap. And the weight is on their back. It's like a haversack. And where we are concerned, we have gone one step further and we say every 5 kilos, no sooner it is filled up, we weigh the leaf. And they don't have to carry the leaf to the road. We send a person there, weigh it, and it's all on digital, right? The moment it's weighed, it's recorded in a system. Nobody can play around with that weight, right? So those are issues that we have identified. And also, we ensure that they have their breakfast in the morning when they come to the field, which inquire. We find we have now, in the past we say they are just crush attendants, but now we have gone one step further. We call them HR officers. So in case somebody is not reporting for work for 2-3 days, we go and find out what their issue is, whether they are ill, whether they can be sent to the hospital for treatment, or whether they have any other issues. I mean, many interventions. And also in workplaces, we have facilities for them to have their meals. They have their restrooms, and also there are toilets in the fields in central locations, so that they don't have to go home, or they don't have to go through difficulties. So those are some of the initiatives that we have taken. And also, we have gone to the extent of saying in the mornings, don't have them closer to, send them to the faraway field, and in the evenings, get them to the close by places so that they can finish their work and go home. They don't have to carry the leaf to the factory or any other place. There are central places identified. They don't have to carry, they only take their weight, the poundage what they pluck, they weigh it, and then the lorry or the transport mode will take it. No head carrying. It's not allowed. So, and also talking about their food. I mean, we know they come in the morning, they prepare their food, but we have given them food warmers. They bring it to the fields, and also each one has a flask. They can have their tea or hot water. There is drinking water facilities given in the field, where the team leader carries a can of drinking water, 1 or 2 cans of drinking water, depending on the requirement or the number of people who are in his team. Also, drinking water is one thing, and first aid, right? There is if you take a group of people, say of about 25, there are 4 or 5 trained on first aid in an emergency, right? How you should act. We have the first aid kit in the field. Somebody has a headache, then they will inquire why and give a Panadol or something. So there are a lot of facilities that we introduce. And I would say Plantation, about talking about the dignity, right? I don't think any other organization takes care of their employees from the womb to tomb, they say, right? From the time the child is conceived, prenatal clinics, postnatal clinics, then health, whatever, health care, right? We have the ambulance facilities, we take total custodial care, right? So therefore, I think those are things that people do not probably appreciate. They don't realize that. But in any other organization, if I come to work, it's only me and I have to finish my work and I go off. But here, not only the workers, but we take care of the entire population of this estate. If you take the RPCs, we have 1 million population on our estates, but we have only 115,000 employees. But that doesn't mean that we are depriving the rest of it. If you look at the child development centers, very few workers' children come there, but most of them are non-workers' children. But we don't differentiate or discriminate them, saying, no, you don't need to come. So that kind of facilities, they are there. But yes, the stigma of saying you're a estate worker has to move out. That is one reason why we introduced this smallholder concept or the revenue share model, because smallholders are very proud of their block. They say, this is my block, I plucked so many kilos, this is my earning. We want them to get that feeling into them. So that's a challenge we are having, and we are doing our best to keep them going.
Thank you for sharing what Haley's is doing, and also the Planters Association as a whole. It's interesting that you brought about that stigma as an estate worker, because we have seen in consultations with parents that was also brought about that when they try to enroll their children in so-called good schools in near town areas, often their children are not accepted basically because of their work. So in that sense, that is a discrimination which needs to be addressed, and also through the Ministry of Education. We'll be discussing that in the next panel. There's also another point that though like there are some challenges that Yogeshwary mentioned, so which means that maybe the standards are not uniform across all the companies, which is natural. There's one other point which is in an upcoming speech that we'll be hearing later in this afternoon from another women's trade union leader. She also brought this access to sanitation facilities for women workers as a key issue. You had mentioned that at the Haley's Group there is a central location for all the fields, but again it's not uniform across all companies that facilities are available. So this question is actually to Leelanath. How can the government also the ministry work with the private sector in ensuring that there are minimum standards that afford that dignity of work to all women tea pickers across all companies, whether it's an RPC, whether it's a state-owned estate, whether it's a private estate or smallholders?
Yeah, thank you, Ahila. So before I answer that question, I just come up with one of my own experience when I was a kid, as a kid. So all the sibling fights in our home, right? When we were kids, we had many fights with our brothers. So we used certain terms to bully each other, right? So so I was always bullied like, okay, you fellow, you were taken up from a Pullemaduwa. Pullemaduwa is the place where we keep where we used to keep early days our kids when moms go to tea plucking. So that is a place we called Pullemaduwa, and so they were trying to bully me, telling me that you were taken from Pullemaduwa. You are not born to our father. So that is the term. So that indicates the maybe it was then, not now, I believe. And also we have the creche system and everything. And as you mentioned, we don't have any creche attendants. We do have the HR assistant, you call it, right? Child development officers. So we don't have that system, thankfully, to everyone who contributed to that. So as for answer to your question, so we as a ministry thoroughly believe that ensuring the safety and the satisfaction in the workplace is a must to ensure the good quality tea production. So in that sense, not like I mean, no one likes to work under minimal, minimum requirements, like they don't have enough minimum facilities, so that no one like to work in that condition. And it is also, firstly, it is a basic human right we should focus on. And also, we think there is a decline, as you mentioned. Actually, you mentioned about the population we have in the tea states, but maybe you don't believe that. We have a sort of very dramatical decline in the labor force. Earlier we had like over 400,000 before the introduction of RPCs. Yeah, 900, yeah. Now we have only like around slightly above 100,000. So that solely depicts the idea or the trends to move out from the tea state working. That maybe have a connection with the dignity as well. So therefore, we think as a ministry we should address this question, this issue as soon as possible, without having no one to work in the tea sector. And we also believe that this should be, as I mentioned at the very beginning, what I had when I was a kid. This is a widespread attitude, not only limited to the state community itself. So we have to, as a government organization, we have to think about dealing the building up the dignity among the community as well as around the community, like the neighboring communities as well. So we have to think about that as well. And when I mentioned about the widespread thing. Maybe you have heard about the teachers' sari dressing thing going on these days. So maybe it's a small thing, small, like just one piece of cloth, but it, it changes a whole attitude set of community. So that's why I mentioned that we have to think about this, like not very narrow vision. We have to think about it widely, and also we can't specially think about one particular government institution who is responsible for this particular improvement. So okay, this organization needs to work on improving the dignity of the tea estate worker. No, we can't do that. We have to go in a, as a network, we have to work together. Like maybe I was in the other room hearing to the other panel earlier. There, Mr. Johan from Horana, he correctly mentioned that, I don't know, he mentioned that, I don't know that there is a certain ego we are trying to maintain while working for the community. Whether it is to children or whether it's to like any other sort of marginalized persons, maybe disabled, wherever we go, this is not from like my perspective as a government servant. As a citizen, what I always feel is like we do maintain certain ego. We can't work together. We don't like to do that, and we don't practice it, and we don't have that practice in the history as well. So my understanding and my suggestion is to work collaboratively. Like we do have two persons from PHTT, Plantation Human Development Trust, where I am a director in the board. So we do have Plantation Human Development Trust there, and we have Women's Ministry, and we have Labor Department. We have some other organizations working alone. Now we have, not 100%. We have certain like small interventions, like we work together, but still we have to go for 100% thing. We have to work together, and currently from the Minister of Plantation, we are trying to get everyone in the board and in the table, and then we discuss the things, and when we go for a common solution. And most importantly, when I was studying in Australia, I got to know about this the citizens' engagement in the public policy reforms or public policy designing, which is very much essential to a country like Sri Lanka. Because now we are thinking about tea picking or tea plucking women in state community. Have we ever taken one each person or one presentation from them on our policy designing forums? Have we? So what is the miss? What is the lack we have here? So we have to go for that, the community, the continuous dialogue with the beneficiaries. Sometimes we do have certain beneficiary programs running in the sector, running in the states, but are we satisfied enough? Okay, now we have done identifying the beneficiaries, and they are 100% correct, and we are sending the projects to the correct person. Can we be honest, be frank? Can we say that? Can we claim that, okay, we have understand the correct person? I don't think that we can 100% say that. So in every government program, what I see as a citizen is we are in a lack of, we don't have a mechanism to involve everyone, every representation from the stakeholders, like from the beneficiaries, into one table and understand what do they really need. Sometimes this is not just the salary increase they want as a female worker. Maybe they just need a toilet to go whenever they want to urinate. So I heard recently I heard from one of my good friend. She's an actress, and she was holding her urinating while she was in the fuel queue. She told me that I couldn't drink even a drop of water because there was no toilet nearby. I can't leave my car in the queue and go to urinate, so I just didn't drink water. Can you imagine? We are expecting the middle-aged women who's tea plucking, and we expect her to find the best leaf from the tea bush. Still, she doesn't have a place to urinate whenever she wants. So we understand this as a government institution. We need to do that. And there our suggestion is to work together work collaboratively and find the best, the beneficiary we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leelanath. Senaka.
On the same subject about this dignity, right? Now, if you look at the girl working in a garment factory, right? Maybe she's earning something lower than what a estate harvester earns. But still they prefer to go to the garment factory. One thing is the recognition. Because some time ago, even to work in a garment factory, people were reluctant. They say, me garment එක වැඩ කරන කෙල්ලක්. That was the way they used to be called. But now they have completely changed that. Similarly, look at the contribution our people make, the tea pickers make to the country's economy. Right? So probably, I mean, this is something that came to my mind. We need to all get together and try to change that perception of the people, society, and start respecting these people because they do a hell of a lot compared to most of the other people. Right? It's now 1.4 billion, around 1.4 billion. If we don't have dollars, I'm talking about, if we don't have leaf, we will see how many people will lose their jobs. So many other, now the brokers, the buyers, the exporters, all of them are dependent on this. So I think we need to look at it. Yeah, and I'm with you on that.
Thank you very much. Just a follow-up comment. Is there anything that Rochelle, you as part of the non-tea estates part of supply chain, think like what could be the role of the rest of the downstream businesses, the tea exporters, brokers and brands be in working with the tea producers and the government in affording that dignity and respect to the tea workers?
Well, we do consider the dignity of our workforce, immaterial of which level, as very important. And especially in the plantation sector, we make sure we have these JCC meetings that we call them regularly. And that gives the workers an opportunity to come to us directly if they have anything. We have an open door policy anyway. And from things to restrooms and toilets are things that we definitely look at. And we don't believe in, providing it, just to tick the box of providing it. It has to be with some sense in what we are doing, not merely, to just do that. So even as a group, really, we have very strong, policies and practices when it comes to our workplace, when it comes to the safety of our workplace, that it's free of harassment. Those are things we take very seriously. And there are many ways that an employee, worker or staff can either report any harassment or even a whistleblower can do it. It does not have to come through the supervisor. We have an external independent ombudsperson they can go directly to. Then they can directly reach out to our chairperson, where we believe that, we maintain that fact that, we respect what they say. They are not going to be victimized for, coming forward, because that is sometimes a fear that people tend to have. If I complain about this, will it go against me? But that's something we don't really look at. So at any point, what we are of the view is, any issue, we will deal with it. We will talk to them. We'll give them a feedback on it. Not merely just listening to all their concerns and saying, okay, we listen to it and that's it. We kind of deal with it as that. And also, when it comes to the dignity of our workforce, we have also, through our 1JKH initiative, we provide sanitary napkins free to all our females. That's a regular thing we do every month. And we also have these awareness sessions for both men and women, because we want to destigmatize this whole taboo subject that people seem to think menstruation is. It's just a normal thing. But in order to destigmatize it, we have multiple awareness sessions in all 3 languages, so that, they understand, that this is just a normal thing, and this is, that dignity is there, especially at the factory level, more than, in Colombo and so on. Then, we believe that, we all have a dignity, we all have self-respect. It's immaterial of what our job role is. It's nothing to do with our company or any industry. It's something that all people need to understand, that everybody has dignity. Everybody has self-respect. And, if we respect that and, leave it as that and, not really look down on anyone and all, it's not only the industry and, the workers that are going to benefit, but society in itself is going to benefit. That would make, I suppose, the world a better place, you could say. So that's how we really look at it in that sense.
Thank you. With this, I would like to open the floor to the audience to ask any questions of the panel, as well as if there is any suggestions, initiatives that you would like to share.
Thank you for the opportunity. When you take the plantation sector, my experience has been that it's a variety of players coming to play. There is private sector, privately owned companies, then RPC, and then there are small holdings. So, I mean, we have to see this diversity very clearly. Of course, while appreciating that we have to start somewhere, because all these things that we are talking here would be possible for the private sector to provide because they make money and they have profits, while the other sectors will not be able to do that. And a smallholder, I don't think, it will be a daily show for him. So, I mean, how are we going to reconcile these things? Like, when we are talking about this, how are we going to do that? And do we have a road plan or anything like that? Where at some day that, even the smallholder will be able to come here. This is my concern.
To any specific?
Yeah, up to the audience. Yeah, anybody can. Thank you.
Can I kindly know your name?
I'm Ravi Kandaya from Foundation for Innovative Social Development.
Right. Mr. Kandaya, thank you for that question. What you said about the regional plantation companies about making profits, I must correct you on that, because we are under so many regulations, right? We are bound to pay the legal salaries, then we are also bound to pay maternity benefits and so many other things compared to the private sector or the smallholder sector. Now, for example, the smallholder sector pays in poundage. They pay 35 rupees, 40 rupees a kilo. But where we are concerned, it's not that. We pay the legal wage plus over kilos, and we also have numerous other ways. So talking about profitability, my perception on that is that the private sector or the smallholder is at a better advantage than the RPCs. Yes, I do agree that there is so much of diversity. We're talking about RPCs, but we should start somewhere, because this is an industry which keeps so many people going. See, if this collapses, it will have a huge effect on the society. So we need to start somewhere. So I think, I feel that we are pioneers in this, and we are not that we are satisfied and we are going to stop at this. We try to always give the best to our employees. Now, on recognition, we have this best pluckers. Every month we recognize them, their contribution. We pay them, we give them a gift pack. Then annually we have a grand, a best pluckers competition, where the chairman and everybody comes and the very attractive prizes are given. So that way we motivate and encourage people to come to work. And also where facilities are concerned, although I haven't mentioned each and everything, there are quite a lot of things that we do. Let us start somewhere. So RPCs is a good platform for us to start. Also talking about the RPCs, I think all RPCs are not the same. So we have to start somewhere. Majority of them are doing so well. So gradually the others will also fall in line. And also if you take the RPC sector, ours is only 35% of the production. So most of it is the smallholders. Actually, it should be the other way around. The smallholders should set example to the RPCs. That's my view. Thank you.
So my question would be like a small suggestion. I think plantation is somehow lacking in innovation. Okay, so when, for example, like when you talk about mobile technology and automobile, both are developing well, but mobile have like achieved a lot while you comparing to the automobile industry. That because I believe it's all about the acceptance and how we are absorbing the idea towards innovation. So is that plantation company open for innovation that benefits plantation workers, especially tea pluckers? When we talk about the things that plantation women carrying, like I think that's too basic, too basic. So can't we come up with, or are plantation companies willing to spend money on innovating, come up with new ideas that benefits both parties? That's one thing. Number two would be, I have seen small tea estates have been unmaintained and abandoned over the years. Does the government or the private sector have any sort of policies in order to like absorb them to another tea plantation or whatever? Because I have seen one of these tea estates which is abandoned since the hospitals, schools, roads and everything is managed by plantation. These people doesn't get the basic commodities. So have been to this estate and they used to wake up 3 in the morning and walk all the way to the main roads. That's take 2 hours to get into a vehicle and go to a nearest town to get mean jobs, right? What about a lady who's pregnant? So does government have any mechanism to like hand over this tea estate to another plantation which is already working on, quite active on that case? So those are my 2 questions.
Could you also mention who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, my name is Kishore Kumar. I'm a social activist based on the plantation community. I'm a founder of the Inspire People organization, which is focused on innovation and entrepreneurship. Yes.
Thank you. Maybe the first question, Senaka, and the second.
Okay, thank you for that question. Talking about innovation, there are certain areas that innovation can come in. For example, even for harvesting, we have machines. We have introduced machines. There are people who are harvesting with machines. Of course, as you know, Ceylon is famous for its quality. So when you go on harvesting with a machine, we are supposed to pluck 2 leaves and a bud, but of course now we go to the 3rd tender leaf. But when you shear or when you use a machine, you just remove so many generations of that bush, right? So there is a practical difficulty, but to a certain extent where harvesting is concerned, innovation has come in. Then also, plucking basket is a simple innovation. It is making life easier for the harvester so that she doesn't have to carry her weight on her forehead. So a step further, when you go, even pruning was manually done. We are using machines for pruning. Weighing, it's all digital weighing. Most of the RPCs, most of the plantation companies, I think some of the private factory or private owners are also doing that. It's digital weighing. So there is no way that you can make mistakes, right? Then when you come to the factories, I think most factories, we have brought in a lot of innovation. Right, starting from withering, right, we have the sensors in it, so the moment, so yes, we are introducing innovation, but there is lot more that can be done, and you're welcome. If you have any suggestions, please contact us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Krishnan, for a nice question. And I'm really happy to answer that. But before that, I would like to add something what Senaka has told about the using certain mechanisms in the RPC sector to answer Mr. Raj. So I think I have pronounced your name correct, Raj, Ravi. Yeah. So what my idea is, why we use RPCs is like more like we have like we can maintain unique methods in a more area other than the small holders. Like, so that is my small sense to add to your answer. So if I turn to Mr. Krishnan, now there is a mechanism. Okay, now we also, when we travel along the field, we also feel that, oh my God, these states are abandoned and where the tea bushes have gone. We feel that. That's true. So then again, we have to think about why they have been abandoned so long. Maybe if it is really abandoned for so long years, or if it is for that time, only for that moment. So for maybe planters can answer this question better than me, because in the tea plantation mechanism, planting system, there is a certain periods where we have to rest the area for replanting. So maybe because of that. At the same time, there are some lands which are not usable to cultivation. And so recently also we are in a question about defining the term uncultivated lands or underutilized lands. So we are in that question as well. So for your question, so yes, we do have a mechanism to give those lands to another third party, but our main focus is to maintain or not to go out of the existing lease agreement with the RPC companies. So we do have a lease agreement with the RPCs from 1992, 1995 sometimes. So we can't go out of, go breaching that agreement. So what we are practicing is, if the RPC can find a third party, we can get the approval from the government authorities to go for a third party sublease agreement. So that is possible. So sometimes people come in those under those process, along this process. So there is a possibility, and we do care about the replanting those abandoned areas. And the bitter truth among everything is this thing is the lack of labor force. We asking again and again the RPCs to replant, do more expansion of your crop and everything, but still they have to tackle with the issue of labor. You can't ask the machine to go and plant. There should be a person to replant or do. So there is those two sides of the problem. But we do understand there is a problem, and there is a possibility of giving such lands to third party under the existing government regulations.
Sorry, I missed part of your question, right? About estates getting into jungle. Well, again, that is, of course, partly not due to the fault of the RPCs, but it is due to the decisions taken by the certain governments, right? Especially where the RPCs are concerned, we are bound by many certificates for rainforests, where we are only allowed to use certain chemicals to control weeds. And when those chemicals are not available, we cannot use any other alternative other than manual weeding, right? So manual weeding is one thing, so expensive, and with the shortage of employees that we have, is virtually impossible for us to maintain. So that may be one reason why those estates, I would say, if you take a estate, some areas will be weedy. That is the reason is, the main reason is that, right? So it's not practically possible to do manual weeding to remove it. We have different ways of slashing, giving out on contract, but still we find that it's an issue. Thanks to the current government and the minister, I think after a lot of effort, they have been able to lift the ban, and the gazette just came out. So we are very optimistic that we'll have the chemicals and also the fertilizer in the future, which will definitely help our industry.
One final question.
One final question. In the interest of time, I'll be very precise. And my question is to Mr. Leelanath Wickrama Arachchi. And you are representing the Plantations Ministry, if I'm not mistaken. And your mandate, you mentioned in the other session, is the crop. So we have a very strong, legal framework where no discrimination, no gender-based discrimination, or whatever is possible in this country. We are a member of the ILO. We have, ratified all those conventions. So the legal framework is there. But I believe the mandate, the theme of this session is gender equality and justice. So it's basically with the Department of Labor, I believe. It's not your mandate. What we find in this country is there are multiple players and there are very little coordination between them, right? Say, for example, we see a road being carpeted, and the next day the telecommunication people come and dig it up, right? And then once it is patched up again, the water board people will come and dig it up again. And we do not see this collaboration, coordination. So how is, I mean, if it is not your mandate, how are you collaborating with these other players like the Department of Labor, ensuring the gender equality and justice? That's my problem. Any answer to that?
I think throughout all the the panel discussion, what my main focus was to like have everyone responsive or the have everyone on the same table and discuss the thing. So it is not personally Leelanath's job or not the Minister of Plantation's job. We as a country and the policy, the policy implementation authority, we have to come up with the solution. But my personal practice is like, when I have a sort of issue on my table, I personally practice to ask everyone involved in that question, come and discuss with me. So that is the only little thing I can do. Maybe I will, if I will be in the government sector, I will be practicing the same in the future, and hopefully, I don't have precise answer for that. So that is my personal practice, and I hope everyone will practice the same. Yeah, your question is really valuable and very valid, but everyone in this room have the answer, I guess. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. With this, we will wrap up this session. Thank you to all the panelists who took your time to share your experiences and suggestions, and the audience as well. And this discussion does not stop here, because there are a lot of ongoing initiatives, especially spearheaded by the tea industry. For example, the Tea 2030 roadmap strategy, and also the PhD and the Planters Association together, they are looking at how NGOs collaborate. So I think there's a lot of scope for all of us to contribute and move some of the key areas that we have discussed forward. So thank you very much for all your time.